All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Double O and Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by my lovely cohort of co-hosts.
Yes.
It's back by popular demand. Alex,
Hello.
Brett,
Hello.
and nobody else. That's it. And Wyatt.
So quiet.
By popular demand, you mean Brett and I just pestering you about it until you brought it back. Just to be clear, that's
exactly.
what he means by popular demand.
I mean,
The wildly fervent minority of people screaming.
there was no one arguing not
incredibly
to bring it
vocal.
back, so you're still the majority.
You're right.
So still popular demand. All right. Popular demand discussion
We
officially
just-
ended.
Clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify, okay, well, we got a packed show today, and by packed show, I mean it's packed, but we're talking about basically one thing, because the Game Awards is coming up, and Cyberpunk is happening, and we're all very excited. So,
Oh my God, it's happening.
first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about Tsushima Legends, because we were going to do it last week, and then we literally had no time to do it because we did everything else except talk about Tsushima Legends, and the podcast was 2 hours long already. So...
Destiny. We just get a little too
That's
into
right.
it
That
at
was the
times.
Destiny week.
Yep, that was big Destiny time. So we're gonna start out with the Tsushima Legends. I mean, after our initial bit now, which is over. So I don't know why I felt the need to add that in reality, because we're talking about Tsushima Legends now. It's happening now, and we're
Ta-da!
doing it.
We did it.
We all collectively have you guys finished the campaign, or are you still in the middle of it?
We're pretty
Still
close to
working
the
on it.
end.
Okay. I have finished that, and I've done like one like strike equivalent of the wave based stuff. I haven't done a raid before, and we
should
still need to get
do that.
together and play it. Yeah.
Is that a
But what
plug impression?
I have listen. I have a feeling that
Was that what that was supposed to
that
be?
we know what the answer is, but what are our overall thoughts on it?
I mean, I think it's important to start out with Tsushima Legends is the free expansion to Ghost of
Oh,
Tsushima.
yeah.
That adds a multiplayer mythology-based component. And I mean, for a free expansion, I mean, even for a paid expansion, this would be impressive.
Oh yeah.
But it's free. So I think that already puts it out on a really good footing because of the fact that it's a free addition to a game that people already like.
It's like, even if it was bad, it almost wouldn't matter because it would have been free. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
but
that's-
disappointing, but we're not being charged for it. So
That's just some more goodwill towards players when there is a
Absolutely.
phenomenal paid DLC that's going to come out.
Dude, if they do come out with another paid DLC, I'd totally buy it. I have a feeling they're probably just going to go straight to Ghost 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
have they talked about if they're doing any kind of like single player or multiplayer stuff after?
I mean, almost certainly they're going to be just... we know they're basically confirmed to be making a sequel because they're hiring people that are like...
oh, a sequel, sure, but
Um,
like an expansion to the original. I mean,
I don't think so. I think they've said that they were going to look into it and see if it would be better suited to be moving directly to the sequel or doing expansions. I'm wondering if what they might do is for Jen's story go directly to the sequel, but they might add some more Legends stuff. I could totally see them adding like another raid down the line.
That's probably what's
Um,
going to happen, if anything.
I could see that being the avenue for new content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about paid stuff. I haven't really spoken much about it, which is interesting. But I think I'd put it as a similar position to like God of War, where God of War launched and basically that's it because the game was really good.
Yeah,
And they're just working on the next one.
Didn't need much expansion at all.
Aside from
Pretty great as
that,
is.
make the next one, please.
well,
yeah.
Expansions to the original. Obviously,
yeah.
for the love of God, please make a sequel. But especially how it ended. But we're not going to get into that here.
Yeah, and I think we can mostly glazing over a lot of Legends, at least a lot of the like progression stuff, because it's not doing anything progression wise that's too terribly unique.
Yeah.
But it's doing it well enough.
it's doing it well
there's
enough,
nothing
yeah.
egregious about it, for sure.
It basically uses a light version of Destiny's power levels, a light version of the light system, if you will.
Uh,
which is
Aw.
still not my favorite thing, but it works.
It still feels wrong when Ryan does puns. It just doesn't sound right to me.
Well, it's the way my
Aw.
delivery is intentionally bad. That's the point.
And
Yeah,
there he is explaining it because it's the
but
Ryan
see,
shit.
like, I get your bit, I get it, but like, oh, whatever, never mind.
But thank you for derailing us for that good
You're welcome.
30 minutes.
Hey, look,
30
if
second
y'all
segment.
get to derail just so you can make fun of me, it's only fair.
But back to the progression, which we were talking about. Yeah, the light level system is essentially what's here. It's a little bit less focused on gearing, obviously, because Tsushima has one weapon type. So gear isn't really split into different weapon types. It's more you get a sword that is in this stance that's good against that type of enemy. And then if you want to have like a fully kitted out squad, you need to team up with people that have the other stances fit. Although any stance can really fight any enemy if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed in a way that you can do that, which is nice. You have all your base stuff from the main game is there. Your kunai and your fancy bombs and whatnot. They're all equipable gear.
I do
and you
like
can get
is
stuff
that
like
there's a
healing
lot
boards.
of there's a lot of either moves or things that they just give you that you didn't have to upgrade. Like you didn't start from like where Jin started at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
They gave you a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff right off the bat, so you don't have to unlock it all again, which was really, really nice because that totally would not have been necessary and would have, I think, made progression a bit more of a slog.
Yeah, stuff like having the grappling hook available immediately is
Yeah.
really nice and just makes the game flow a lot better.
Yeah.
At least for a multiplayer. Like I think it's fine in the single player that you don't have that at the start, but
Oh
in the
yeah, well, it's
multiplayer,
just if you're coming from the single player right to the multiplayer, I feel like it
Yeah.
would have been a little bit much personally.
and then there are some pretty significant differences between classes. I think the one kind of negative to that is that the classes all basically have the same ultimate. It does their theme differently,
It's
but
the
like
kill button.
it's the kill button
It's the
aside from the
everything
Ronin.
dies button. Yeah.
The
at
Ronin has
least-
the everything revives button.
And where I am in the game currently, I didn't notice like a whole lot of difference between the classes, which isn't a huge problem, but it would have been nice to feel it a bit more. Although I hear as you level up more that the difference becomes more apparent.
Because I've been leveling up, and it is a pretty big difference because I've been playing the assassin, Wyatt's playing the samurai, and Brett, I don't know what you've been playing. What's your go-to?
I haven't played it since it came out.
Well, what was your go-to when it came out?
I think it was just the regular samurai, man.
Yeah.
And then I unlocked the archer the second I got the chance, and I started playing as her.
Yeah. So
I guess
the difference is the skill tree that they have. Every class has their own skill technique system, which like for assassin means you can unlock where like Jin in the story can get better at assassinations the more you do them. Here you can as an assassin get that upgrade, and then you get the fast assassinations that other classes don't get.
Yeah.
And that's like where that difference comes in of like the assassin can assassinate people basically 2 times as fast if they're careful about it, and it's a lot quieter.
And they could do the multi-assassination too.
Yeah.
I assume, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
like their
think-
ultimate is the multi-assassination.
I think what Ryan and I think can mostly agree on is the best part of the game is because everything in terms of like converting a single player game to multiplayer, they did a really good job. But I think the best part of it is just it's such a generator of just these cool looking moments with your buddies. Like-
Yeah.
Like that's really what it comes down to is like doing these like cooperative assassinations and these like synced different kind of moves and stuff like that. It just
So
looks
you're
so
saying it's good for streamers.
well, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
actually, I didn't even think of that, but no, for sure, that's my favorite part is that it just looks so cool pulling off certain maneuvers with other people, and it just creates these really cool like moments. And not to say that the actual gameplay isn't great, but for me, that's what stood out the most is that wow, that move we just did was really cool, and that was like my biggest takeaway, I think. But-
Yeah, I definitely think that was what was happening. Is we constantly like stop and be like, that was just really cool.
Yeah.
And it also,
There's a lot
because I
of
think
that.
if you've played through the campaign, there's a certain method of doing things that the campaign encourages. And if you're both in that same mindset, you end up doing a lot of cool stuff just without even talking about it. Where
Oh,
like you'll
yeah.
both take one side and assassinate a guard from either side and then open up a path. It's just
yeah.
really, really
One
cool,
thing-
cool looking stuff.
Synchronized takedowns.
And what's great is it even happens when you're not playing with buddies, right? Like I played the first couple of missions just with some randos, and there's this great moment where I accidentally alerted someone, and they ran over to me without kind of alerting anyone else. And what we turned it into was I ran kind of to a certain area of the map we were in. The guy was following me, and it led perfectly to my buddy doing an assassination. So I was like this perfect distraction for my buddy at the time. It was such a cool, like, I felt like I was playing out a movie where you see those kind of classic like distraction scenes, you know.
Yeah.
It was great. And it's just great that they can happen even without you having to talk to a buddy. It just kind of happens naturally sometimes. So they did a good job of facilitating those kind of moments.
And one small decision I really like is that the alert level is separate per player. So if an enemy
Thank
notices
God.
one player,
Ooh.
they don't
Mhm.
notice all the players. So what would
So-
consistently happen is like either Wyatt or I would get noticed, and then the other one would just go around assassinating people on the edges.
Yeah, which does a great job at promoting different classes, because you can have your big tanky samurai boy just kind of like cause all this commotion, and it allows the other guys to continue to sneak around.
Yeah. Like there was
Their
some fun
playstyle.
stuff where Wyatt was fighting people, and then I'd jump off a rooftop and assassinate someone he was fighting, and it was very fun.
Yeah. So it
like
allows
that's
both
really
play
entertaining.
styles to happen simultaneously. You know, you're not either sneaking or fighting. It's dependent on the player. So
Yeah.
it kind of encourages you to keep your role in check,
And
regardless.
I
of
mean,
what's
we
going
haven't even mentioned, I think, our favorite part of it yet, which is the visual style is
Oh,
just
God, yeah.
excellent.
My goodness. It makes me wish the entire game looked like that, to be honest. Not that it didn't look pretty already, because it did, don't get me wrong, but that kind of more like mythological, over the top style, I kind of
It looks like Neo.
secretly, yeah, I kind
Ooh.
of secretly wish the whole game looked like that, because I kind of prefer that personally.
Because you
But that's just
already
me.
have like the base game, at least in my opinion, is like the prettiest game to come out in a very long time. Like even stacked up against like the other really beautiful looking things that have come out recently.
At least like art
Yeah.
direction wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you put that with just some like absurd imagery of just like giant floating like hearts, I think it was, and just like completely like black or red skies and stuff. Like the
Yeah.
arenas that they put you in are so awesome.
I personally
And
love the sorry, go ahead.
when you guys and whoever else wants to play it also gets like towards the end of the campaign, they're like when you get to the snow level, you will know what I'm talking about. But like, oh my god, that and you know, when we're done with talking about the visuals, the mechanics for the whole campaign are pretty cool in the way that they evolve to be different from the normal, you know, just like kill people and that's it.
Yeah. It definitely is very stunning. And especially the transitions between areas of the individual levels are also very visually unique, which I very much appreciate.
Oh yeah, I loved because kind of your sort of through line for a lot of these stories is you have a narrator that's kind of talking about what the ghosts are doing while you're playing. And so I loved every now and then you see like the pages, and I think it's hinted at that he's writing these pages and they're being kind of stuck up
Yeah.
on walls or on
Yeah.
cliffs and stuff. It looks just awesome. You could tell that like it's almost like with regular Tsushima, it's almost when you compare them, it's like, wow, they kind of restrained themselves a little bit,
It's
and then they just
yeah.
went all out.
Yeah.
It looks great. They're like, it's a very like screw it kind of mentality. I feel we're just like, yeah, let's do that. It looks cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, it certainly feels like they kind of took the training weights off, and we're like, we can just do whatever we want now.
Oh yeah.
Which yeah, I think it makes both the original game still stands out in its way of having this like historical plot line and a lot of character focus, whereas Legends is just this basically a power trip
I mean,
that
you can
is
see
extremely well done.
without like, because I don't we're not trying to spoil anything.
Yeah, no
from
spoilers.
either Legends or the original game, but like there are, you guys know what I'm talking about. There are like parts of the game, like the base game, that you can kind of see that like crazy stuff poking through in a little
Mhm.
places, and it's like they took those and they just made a whole entire add-on completely out of that for the story of of Legends. It's
Oh yeah.
insane. I'm so glad they did it.
I'm sure there were plenty of people clamoring for like, I want to see more of that. They're like, well, we got
Well,
you
guess
covered.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up most of our Legends talk. We'll probably revisit it a little bit once we all have a chance to actually finish it and play the raid.
Yes.
But
Probably
when
go
that
whole
will be,
games
I would assume sometime in the next like 1.5 months. But a hard time period to estimate as to when that will exactly get out.
Right.
But we've got video games to talk about
Yes,
that
we
aren't
do.
just Ghost of Tsushima. As much as I would love to just talk about Ghost of Tsushima, we already did that
We already
in the
did
Games
that,
Club
yeah.
episode that you can go listen to whenever you would
There
like.
it is. There it is.
There's the plug. All right. So I want to briefly go over, before we get into our big like Game Awards discussion, briefly go over some news from the last week. So Flash Player is officially dying in less than a month.
Rip.
Yep.
Goodbye, Flash Player, and all the
Rip
great
Newgrounds.
That's
games
right,
that you
that's
gave
right.
us. All the Newgrounds games. Rest in peace. All right, great. A bunch of people accidentally got sent Cyberpunk 2077 Collector's Editions by Best Buy. Apparently,
Thank you,
Walmart
Best
also
Buy.
ended up doing this. So
Yeah,
they
exactly. Oh no.
they got sent these
For them.
things early. Not like accidentally sent a better copy of the game, but like they were sent their copies early. So Cyberpunk's in the wild, and has been for almost a full week at this point by the time you're listening to this. So yeah, spoiler watch is definitely a thing. At this point, if you've made it to when this podcast comes out and haven't been spoiled, you're probably fine.
You're good at that point.
And if it has been, I am so sorry. Legitimately.
Yeah. I also think there's some fun stuff coming with GOG right now, because you can get The Witcher for free.
Yes, that's right.
Wait, the first one, second
Yep,
one?
the original
The
one.
first one.
Witcher Enhanced Edition is
Ooh.
now free for
Hmm.
anyone who uses GOG Galaxy, which is CD Projekt Red's thing. So
I may be downloading then.
yeah, it's definitely an aged game, but it's still, the story definitely holds up. But you will have to
Free.
deal with a bit of jank.
Yeah, and because it's free, it's nice just to see where the series started if you're a huge fan, especially the third one, which I think where a lot of players kind of hopped in. You know, it's cool to see where the series started. It's sort of humble roots by comparison.
Yeah. All right. So we got some global release times for Cyberpunk, which is interesting to me because normally release times for games aren't news. But people are so
this
hyped
case-
down to the second for Cyberpunk that there is now a map, like an official art graphic that CD Projekt Red has made, so that you can tell what time exactly you're able to play the game in your PC platform.
So I'll give them that.
So, hey, East Coast, we're a little lucky. We can play the game on December 9th at 7 p.m. instead of
right.
December 10th. It's because it's based on the 1 a.m. GMT, or not 1 a.m., midnight GMT time. So it's not local midnight, it is midnight GMT. So that scales to whatever
Poland.
your local time is. All right. We still have major console shortages for both consoles that are expected to continue probably until January. So that's a big rest in peace to people looking to get Christmas presents for people. Maybe just hold out. Just hold out. It'll come
Yeah.
eventually.
Do we
There's plenty of other games to play.
I probably should have asked this before we started rolling, but do we want to talk about the scalpers at all? Because I've been hearing a lot about
Scalping, I think, is mostly a separate
Scalping
conversation.
recently.
It's
Alright.
just, I don't think anyone here will disagree. Scalping's bad. Don't do it. But
If you can really hold out, please don't support this because
well, it's
it'll
also
only
like
make
scalpers
you-
are asking for amounts of money that
Yeah.
I think regular people can't pay. Like, I think
Right,
the
but-
cheapest thing I've seen, like Facebook Marketplace will just advertise scalped PS5s to me. I'm like, these people are asking for like $1,500 for a PS5. I'm like, who is paying that? Someone, obviously, because it's working. Like, someone has to be paying that. But I think it's not general consumers. My bet is it's
The other
people that
thing-
have enough money to not worry about
Yeah.
The
How
only
would
other
you feel paying Bill Gates' annual salary for a console?
that.
Yeah. And the other thing too that I did want to just bring up is that I've seen some who are very kind of public and being like, "Oh, we have families to feed." It's like, dude, don't try and turn this into a charitable thing. Because I've seen that a
Yeah.
lot where they're trying to come off as like the good guy and trying to be charitable and stuff. And it's like, no, if you're a
Reminds me-
scalper, you're not doing anything charitable. I'm sorry.
Reminds me of the people who support aimbot for games.
Yeah, it's
If you
don't scalp
have
your
families to
PS5s
feed,
or your
don't.
Xbox Series X's.
Yeah.
It
We
just
do
made me
also have.
sick.
So speaking of the next gen consoles, we do have some interesting performance analytics now that they've been out for a while, and we've got to see a lot of the multi-platform stuff. So the interesting thing here is that on paper, Series X specs are better than PS5. In practice, that has proven to not be the case almost unilaterally across all the multi-platform titles,
Interesting.
which is very interesting. They're almost exactly on par, and the PS5 appears to have better frame timing in a lot of games. So, and for those who don't know, frame timing is the consistency of the time between frames, essentially. It's a little bit hard to judge, but it makes a lot of difference in things like action games. So it's just a very curious thing that like the specs have led to this, and it does mean that the PS5 is like whatever. We do know there's some like unique hardware components in the PS5 that aren't present in the Series X. The Series X is a little bit more closely made to like a PC architecture than the PS5 is. So something in there is doing work to make up those like 2 teraflops that the PS5 doesn't have compared to the Series X, which is really interesting. Like I very much want to see a technical breakdown of how that works.
Given that, I still think it's a fair claim to make that the difference in performance and all these other stats are not, huge. I definitely think the difference in performance in games is much closer than it was last generation,
Yeah.
for example.
The biggest thing that was being shown is that I believe it was Valhalla was being used as the example for this because it was the easiest to track. The Series X at 4K was most consistently staying well under 4K, where the PS5 at 4K, like the way both systems 4K works is it dynamically does resolution from either native 4K to checkerboarded 4K, depending on how intense the part of the scene is. The PS5 was staying far more consistently at that true or closer to true 4K than the checkerboard number. And you can look up the Digital Foundry has a bunch of stuff on this, as well as a few other news outlets have also been doing these breakdowns. So the PS5 has been being weirdly more consistent. It's not, I wouldn't say it's performing better per se, because the tech is clearly a different situation, but like the consistency in the PS5 is something in there is handling certain aspects of game tech better than the Xbox. So I'm curious to see if that gap is going to either widen or shrink as the generation goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm really curious if it's going to be like maybe it's just something that like the Valhalla devs had more time to develop on PS5 and that might just be why, or if it's going to be a situation of something in that PS5 architecture is making it easier to develop for or optimize for.
The other thing too is that these are freshly launched systems, and
these are first launch systems,
and you often get sometimes the opposite sort of situation at the end of a console's lifespan, because I remember when the PS3 came out, it had this crazy complex architecture that was very difficult to develop for, but once developers actually figured out how the cell processor worked, it actually was able to create games that either performed or looked.
Yeah, but that's a very different. This situation is more akin to the PS4 and Xbox One than it is.
No, I know. I'm just as
the
an
PS3.
Example. That
Because the PS3 is really unique in that its architecture was just insane.
Right. Well, but it's just an example of like,
bad.
these things are subject to change over time. And time will tell what
Yeah, I certainly think as of right now it's hard to make any calls, but it seems like
sure.
the biggest thing I would say is that people that were worried about the PS5 not performing as well as the Xbox should not be worried anymore. Like that's not a concern. At the same time, like don't be, if you have an Xbox Series X, don't be like, oh, you wasted your money, because the difference is literally like one frame occasionally.
It's not something like, unless you're really kind of like full on Digital Foundry, hooking up sensors and stuff, you're not gonna notice it.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have like a 4K TV, then it really doesn't matter.
Sure. If you're like a lot of people who just use your same PC monitor as your TV, then it's good. You're gonna be fine. Don't worry.
The great equalizer that is Black Ops Cold War will crash them both anyway, so don't worry about it.
Oh, true. I was gonna bring that up and then I forgot. I forgot about that.
It is like literally pretty much only that game too, so I think that's
Yeah.
more of a
It's an
more of a
Activision
game
thing.
issue, yeah, than a console.
Well,
centric
Yeah.
I
issue.
shouldn't say Activision. I should say Treyarch.
Yeah, that's a bug fixing like
Vicarious
quality
Visions,
control.
Activision Shanghai. Did I miss any?
You get the entire
So many
alphabet.
studios. My God.
It is for one game. It's kind of Demonware is another one. It's kind of nuts.
Did they need that many people?
That's never a good
It's a-
question to ask.
It's a difficult question to answer because there's been a lot of development issues specifically. Well, for a Call of Duty game specifically with this one. From what I understand, it was originally a Sledgehammer game, and then they were taken off and given in primary development was given to Treyarch. And then I think COVID just kind of confused
Yeah.
things even more. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of studios working on it now. And some of them, and to be clear, not all of them were working on the core game. I think Treyarch was like multiplayer, Raven was single player. I don't know who was working on zombies, and then a lot of it was like either just technical support or like different platform
Yeah,
development.
Vivi
so,
does QA, and pretty much that's it.
Yeah.
All right,
I think
so
anyway,
we'll talk more about that kind of thing once we all have Black Ops in our hands and everything. Or not Black Ops Cold War.
'Cause
Well, it is a Black Ops.
we haven't
game,
talked
but
about it enough.
yeah, I want to keep it moving because the Game Awards talk is going to be a long talk, I think. So we need to keep time up for that. Yeah, so running through the next few things, GeForce RTX 3060 Ti's are a new card coming in, and they are faster than the 2080 Supers and are $399, which is insane price, like performance for your dollar. If you're looking to do like PC optimization stuff, the 3060 Ti is looking like a really good entry level. I say entry level, but this thing is like a beast of a card. It's just compared to Nvidia's other offerings right now that are also even better. But like if you're looking to build a PC now for like work or other reasons that also you want to be able to play games, 3060 Ti is looking like a good option at $399.
It seems like a great value.
Yeah, like the price per dollar or the performance per dollar is insane on that card. Like
which is not something you normally say when you're talking about Nvidia cards because they're they're not powerful, but they're very expensive. I mean,
well, Nvidia usually does is they usually have the lowest end card is really good performance for your dollar, and then it just goes up like an insane amount, like it doubles in the price to your performance in ways that it is just ridiculous. But they seem to have stopped doing it this time, aside from the like 3090, which is $1,500, but that card is clearly meant for like enthusiast level insane people. Well, like even a lot of streamers aren't getting that.
Which definitely is a market. It's not.
I mean,
like
like movie animators, people that like really need that amount of rendering power,
but not a Quadro, right?
Yeah.
like they still want a GTX and not a Quadro, so that's
well, a lot of it is the entry level Quadro is going to run you 2K, so it's still a huge price difference. Like Quadros are insane,
but it's also a driver difference as well.
Yeah, well, Quadros aren't optimized for games; they're optimized for like rendering, which is a separate workflow for the most part.
Right.
So yeah, that's an entirely separate conversation. But yeah. Microsoft acquired Smash.gg, which is basically an esports tournament organization platform. This is just super interesting to me because it means I just want to know what Microsoft's going to do with it. Like,
and how they're going to get all this money back.
Like, what are they acquiring Smash.gg for? Man, I'm just so curious about that. Like, I wanted to see what they do with Smash.gg. Because I think for the most part it's staying the same, but like, then what's the reason for the acquisition?
They need it for Halo Infinite.
I don't know. Yeah,
we all right, you.
All right, that's most of the big news aside from the two major bits of the Game Awards and the Bioware stuff that we're about to talk about.
I was gonna say you forgot about the Bioware stuff.
What's the small one?
Oscar Isaac has been cast to be
Yes,
Solid
Ah,
Snake
yeah.
in the Metal Gear Solid movie that is
Oh.
happening.
Question mark?
Maybe
Happening
so.
probably, maybe?
it's been happening probably maybe for a while, but now
It's been happening probably.
Probably.
It's been happening maybe for a while. Now it's happening probably, is what I
Yeah,
put it like.
So, as far as video game movies go, and I don't want to get too off topic, but this is really nagging at my head now.
yeah.
This or Monster Hunter?
Oh,
Which will be
absolutely
better?
this.
Well,
I
yeah, 'cause
think-
this is
There's
in the
no
hands
trailer
of the
for this
guy.
yet. We can't judge anything just yet.
Yeah,
This is
but
in
like
the hands of the guy who did Kong Skull Island, which is like a fun, good movie.
this will at least be okay at a
Yeah.
base entertainment watching level.
You can watch it
But
and,
we don't
and
know that.
smile.
We don't know
But
that.
look at the Monster Hunter trailer, Wyatt. That isn't okay. That's gonna be a trash fire, I think. And I
There's a
think
lot
that
of good
the
people
team,
attached to video game movies before. I mean,
yeah, but the team behind this, like, it would take some impressive levels of failure for this to be extremely bad.
I know. It's just I've been burned by video game movies having good people at the helm and just. 'cause
Well, let me put it
I
this way for you,
always-
Wyatt. I think there is no way that I can, in good confidence, say Monster Hunter will be at all even have a chance of being a better movie than
Oh,
this.
I'm not saying that Monster Hunter will be better. I'm just saying we don't know really anything other than a casting choice for.
Yeah, and the like earliest projected film date for this, not like release date, but the date they're gonna start filming is like late next year, possibly early 2022. So we got a ways to go.
A
Yeah,
long
and
time.
and for example, I always come back when I think about video game movies. I always think about the Warhammer movie. Oddly enough, because they had a good. First of all, I don't think that movie was that bad, but they also one of the reasons I was excited for it is they had a good director working on it. The guy did Source Code, which I love. If you haven't seen Source Code before, it's really really great. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. A lot of good actors and stuff. And then it came out, and I was like, oh, it's all right, I guess. I don't know. It's just I think I'm just completely jaded on video game adaptations at this point.
Everyone is.
Yeah, I don't think that's the
Not
case for
alone.
anyone disagreeing with that. It's just that, like,
The only bright spot has been Castlevania, which is legitimately great.
but
Because
yeah,
it
that's
also
a whole
understands-
separate talk, and I gotta keep us moving because we got a lot to talk
Anyway,
about.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
But yeah, I think that the general gist of it is that, like, even if these movies are insanely bad, at least Metal Gear is generally adherent to like modern military setting stuff,
Yeah.
with a few like giant robots thrown in occasionally, which is a lot easier to animate than giant monsters. So it'll be an easier execution. But yeah, so that moves us on to. I'll give you guys the option. Do we want to do the negative talk, which is the Bioware talk, or the hype talk, which is the Game Awards talk first?
Let's
Let's
get
end
the
off on a
bad.
high note. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
End
great.
on a high note.
So,
Bio first.
for those who don't know, Bioware has had
They're on
has
fire.
a history of development troubles recently,
A
and
long time.
right now there's a huge little problem known as the studio head leaving.
Oh,
And the executive producer on the next Dragon Age also leaving.
Yep.
Point out this is not Casey Hudson's first
Yep.
time leaving the studio.
Well, actually, before you talk about that, because we haven't even said their names yet. Casey Hudson, general manager of BioWare,
Spoiler.
and Mark Darrah, the executive producer on upcoming Dragon Age, both left.
Yeah.
There is now there is a little bit of a silver lining here in that it's not the same as like with Anthem, where people were leaving right before the game releases. Like the next Dragon Age and the next Mass Effect are still far away; they are early in development. So this is less catastrophic.
January.
This is less catastrophic than if people were leaving at the end of a dev cycle, but still, this does not bode well. And yeah, they also announced all currently ongoing projects, which are including Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Legendary Edition, and Anthem Next will be continued, despite leadership shifts. So yeah, as you were saying, Wyatt, Casey Hudson has left before as well.
Yeah, and he came back to finish Anthem's development.
Yep.
Which I think was like, all right. I'm not stating this as fact. I am simply stating this as a possibility that they brought him back just to reassure fans more than him actually contributing to anything. Not to say that he didn't, but I really just there's this part of me that feels like that's why they brought him back more so than him actually being able to do anything of note. Which is probably
And something else to mention about this is we don't actually know a lot about what Casey Hudson and Mark Darrah do, because it's not like Bioware just like tells you what these people are doing constantly. So there is a fairly good chance
constantly leaving.
Yeah, there's a fairly good chance that these people were asked to leave for some reason, and that maybe they were not doing work on the level that they wanted. So we don't know if this is them leaving because they were worried about the project, or them being outed because the projects they were heading weren't going well. So either way is certainly possible. With the track record of Hudson in particular with Anthem, I think people are leaning toward, the general opinion is leaning towards Hudson is leaving for the sake of making the games better and not the other way around, which is interesting, but we don't really know.
Very tight-lipped, the whole
situation. Which is normal. Like, that's not out of place. That's a general thing that happens with game studios.
But it just means we can't really comment on it because we don't know.
Yeah, we don't want to make blatantly false statements. We can't be like Casey Hudson's a travesty or Casey Hudson's the best person ever because we don't know Casey Hudson.
We could probably get more clicks, though.
Yeah, we totally could get more clicks, but I don't think that's why any of us are doing it. So
that? Maybe.
Maybe. All right. I gotta start putting the titles in all caps now.
I would leave if we started doing that.
You gotta put like random red circles and arrows, like random places on the thumbnails,
and have us do like the YouTuber face.
Of course,
which is basically
hogging on the thumbnail.
which is basically just the face from Home Alone.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Anyway, but yeah, so we don't have much else in the way of new information from Bioware yet, but this is a good kind of lead into our Game Awards talk.
What a segue, Ryan.
We're supposedly going to have some info on Dragon Age 4 at the Game Awards.
Because let's face it, the Game Awards. Because let's face it, the Game Awards are E3 now.
Yep,
they are.
They've become
better
E3.
Than E3 ever was, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and I'm kind of fine with it. I mean, we heard about the next generation of consoles, not from E3,
at the Game Awards. Yep, which is a huge, weird position to be in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not really complaining.
That leads me to our award for today. As always, we have an award to give out.
Oh boy.
That is really, it doesn't mean anything to anyone else, but to us it means a lot.
It's very important.
It's very important. And this award is the Double On Radio Gamescast Best Game Awards Award.
Okay. I thought one of those was extraneous, but no, you're right.
Nope, I'm correct. I did.
You are absolutely. I'm a fool for doubting you. No one say anything. Just get into it.
All right. So a lot of these are standard awards. So I'm going to give you some awards that are a little bit different, which is really to say that they're not that different at all because they're all pretty standard. But we have Best Debut Game. I think that's a fun category.
As in like a studio's
first game. Yep.
Okay.
We have Best Community Support.
Fortnite.
Well, community support.
It's not even wrong, but quiet you.
Community support is specifically referring to like social media support. And like the social media teams and community.
Oh, so Fortnite.
Feedback. And for Fortnite is up for that award, but other examples include No Man's Sky, Fall Guys, Destiny 2, Apex Legends, and Valorant.
That seems about right, I think.
It's outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness.
Destiny 2 was nominated for that. As a Destiny 2 lover, I can say that they will not win.
Okay.
I'd be a little upset if they did. And then we
It's my
have
favorite game. I hate it.
our final category of best sports
That sums
racing.
it up.
I just like that they put sports and racing together, and that Tony Hawk Pro Skater
Yeah.
is an option in sports racing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got my answer if we're ready.
Yeah.
Best debut game, because I think debut games from new studios are really, really exciting, and they're also specifically for the developer and publisher are really important. And it's just cool to see a studio succeed and get that kind of recognition for a first effort. So that's me.
All right. Alex, you got your decision here? You going with the flow of best debut game, or are you mixing it up with a new category?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with debut as well because it's really important for smaller companies to get that recognition.
All right, Brett.
This might be a first. But I'm also going with debut games because not only
God.
is like having your first game be big enough to get like an award like that is crazy important, but also like a couple of the games like that I can remember, which is only one of them being Mortal Shell on that category. Like Mortal Shell's a really good game.
Yeah,
And
all the
fact that, like,
nominees for this category are really good. I'll read them off for you. It's Mortal Shell, Raji.
oh, yeah.
I have not heard tale or anything of Raji yet, but I am
I've
definitely interested
won
in
it,
playing
actually.
it now. I will
I
say.
played a bit of it. In fact, it kind of inspired the design for my capstone game in some ways, which is kind of interesting.
And then we have Roki, Carrion, and Phasmophobia.
That's
Man,
right. I'm I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
that is a stacked list.
I mean, all
Yeah.
those games are very good, so
Yeah.
it's extremely curious
Tough
to see.
decision.
There's a lot of good things up this year in a lot of awards categories, which is what we're about to talk about. So we're gonna kick it off and leave Game of the Year for last because I think that's an interesting conversation. And the important thing here, we're not saying what our picks are this week, because our own like award show is a thing we have planned for January, probably either January or February. So we have all have time to kind of like think about what we actually want, and that'll be its own thing.
Are we saying like what we think is probably going to win?
Yeah. So what I want to hear from this is like what people think overall of the nominees. I don't think you need to call a winner or anything unless you want to. If you want to, go ahead and like let me know. Let the audience hear your predictions. But I'd like to hear what you think of the nominees, or if there's a game that you think should be there that isn't. If there's a game that's up there that you think shouldn't be. That type of thing is I think what's most interesting here, as well as just like predictions for how the Game Awards in general is going to go, because we have no clue. The show has constantly been like a live show as a thing for a long time, so I'm curious to see how it's going to be done in this year of COVID and not doing live things anymore. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the actual show will look like as well. We don't have a lot of info yet.
If I remember, I think it was something that that Jeff Keighley posted somewhere. Someone asked literally like exactly what you just like posed as a question, and I think the response was like they're not gonna have like an in-person event that people can
Yeah.
be at in person, but it's still going to be like live.
Well, yeah, I that's what I mean. I'm like, are they still
Oh.
going to do the stage? Is it going to be more like Zoom call type stuff? Because I have a feeling they're probably not flying people out and whatnot for this. So it's going to be a lot of like people probably in their homes, just Skyping in, as it were.
Can we also take a moment just to appreciate? Can we give a most improved award to the Game Awards in general? Because it started off as this like absolute like cringy garbage, and I really think that it's. I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, but I really do think it's improved a lot since it kind of started. Because I was, for me partially at many years, it was kind of unwatchable for me.
At least now
Not
it's
gonna
very
lie.
entertaining.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
But like I can you know, I have fun watching it unironically and not like a guilty pleasure sort of thing. It's like,
I
oh,
get that.
it's an award show for a thing I like. No, it's legitimately entertaining at times.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, unless anyone has other general Game Awards things they want to talk about, we're going to start talking about categories.
let's do it.
Here we go.
And we can also talk about the Player's Voice Award. I think the Player's Voice is a good place to start since that award isn't decided yet. But basically, Player's Voice is a category that over a couple of days, there's a few rounds, 30 games are nominated, and then people just pick the ones they want to see continue in that list. So as of right now, it is down to the top 5, and then everyone's voting on the last game they want to see. It's Doom Eternal, Hades, Ghost of Tsushima, Miles Morales, and Last of Us Part 2 are
wow.
Familiar
final
list of games.
category. Like it's a good list.
Who would have guessed
Episode
the
links
All-Stars?
here.
It looks almost certainly like it's going to come down to Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us Part 2 because this is a popularity vote, so it's going to be the games that people have most played that have the most like wide audience exposure. And a lot of people just don't play a lot of indie games or don't like first-person shooters or don't have a PS5 to play Miles Morales on and don't want to buy it on PS4. So I think it's either going to be Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us Part 2. Almost no question. It's pretty close right now.
I'd say that's a safe bet.
But yeah, they're both quality games, so I'm just curious to see how that turns out.
For sure.
All right. So then our other general nominees, we're going to start with the esports stuff because I think I can speak for all of us when I say we're not the esports people.
No.
No. Nuh-uh.
I used to be pretty involved with League esports, but it's been a good like 4 years since then, and I'm really just not. I don't have the bandwidth for esports.
Siege.
Yeah, I keep occasional track of CS:GO because I have a couple of friends who play competitively, but it's really not.
Can't take the attitude that a lot of like more not esports gamers, but people that take competitive games a little more seriously. There's just a kind of attitude that I sometimes just can't.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Deal with.
So we have the categories for esports are best esports team, best esports host, best esports game, and best esports event, as well as best esports coach and best esports athlete.
I can't even tell you a single, maybe with except for like 1 or 2 games, I can't tell you anything about what's going to be on those lists.
Yeah, I think there are some recognizable faces in the esports hosts because I think some of them have a little bit more of a general wide presence. I know Shox does a lot of other stuff as well, and James
I'll
Dash
take your word
Patterson
for it.
is also just like a little more involved with just general news. But those people are like the only ones that I recognized out of this list of a lot of people. Best esports team, like there's names people recognize here. I think G2 is a pretty common team. But like it's just a lot of teams and whatnot. I think none of us really feel comfortable calling that stuff because we have no frame of reference here. The interesting thing to me about these categories is the esports event. So I just think this is super interesting because of how unique the events have to be this year. Of these these events are like basically online only now. And I haven't personally watched like IEM Katowice or the Overwatch League finals this year, but yeah, I'm curious to see if there's some actual conversation around that because of how the events were changed. And I think the league finals were either relatively recently or they happened a year ago, and I'm mixing up the timeline as to which one it is. But yeah, it's just stuff I'm curious to see what people think of those esports events, considering they're all basically digital this time. And then yeah, esports athlete, it's a bunch of people that I did not know a single one of them. So
Me neither. Yeah.
I looked at it and was like, I see we got some Korean League players. We got some.
We have some. I'm assuming they're human beings. That's about all.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
got some human beings that play Call of Duty.
Trick question. There's an AI.
Yep.
The Greendale human beings, is that a team?
The Greendale human beings.
And then kind of lumped in with the esports creator of the year stuff, we have content creator of the year. So we have for this the people nominated, which I think a few of us are probably familiar with a few of these people, at least at a passing level. It's Jayan Lopez, Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman, Valkyrae, and Alana Pierce. Tim the Tatman is nominated for content creator of the year. Of course, this award is also sponsored by Adobe.
Tatman. Oh, that's so. The only thing I've ever seen from Tim the Tatman are people's countless like freak out moment or rage compilations.
Yeah.
Like I don't watch a lot of them, but I just see a lot of them floating around, So I just find that very funny. I don't know.
Yeah, I know 3 of these people. I know one of them because I watch Alana Pierce's stuff pretty regularly, but Tim the Tatman and Valkyrie I've heard of passingly. I don't watch their stuff. And then Nick Merckx and Jayon Lopez, I have no clue who these people are.
I don't know who any of them are.
Yeah, the one I think that most general gaming audiences will be familiar with is Alana Pierce because she's just a general gaming journalist that's been involved with like Rooster Teeth and IGN over the years. So she's a little more well known and is now a writer for Santa Monica. Yeah.
Which again, I'm not jealous. It's fine. I don't care.
Am I like old? Like I don't know any of these people. I feel old already.
I think a lot of them are streamers is the big thing. Aside from maybe Jayon Lopez looks familiar, but she's also a streamer. So I think it's just we're not really seeing a lot of like typical YouTube personalities that are a little bit more like well known in the popular vote, I would say. But all of these people are certainly doing a lot. So I do recognize Jayon Lopez now. She is part of the like Black Women in Gaming charity org. So that is where she is at least involved with. But yeah, the rest of them I do not recognize myself. Then we do have the next thing is best multiplayer. Got Animal Crossing New Horizons, Among Us.
Part of the what, Ryan?
Episode of Community
what is she part of?
He's back.
Oh,
He's back.
Oh, hi, Ryan.
Look,
You've
nothing was
gone.
wrong on my end. I don't know what's going on, but we're good. We're good.
Oh.
Twitch had us up fine. So I think this Discord's having issues again.
Oh no.
But good thing we still got everything recorded. I was still talking the entire time, so we're fine. But yeah, the next award is best multiplayer. We talked about the content creator of the year. Basically, none of us know most of these people, so
yeah.
They're mostly Twitch streamers. Best multiplayer, we have Animal Crossing, Among Us,
Not good multiplayer.
Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys, and Valorant.
Not happy with that.
Yeah, Animal Crossing stands out to me because multiplayer in Animal Crossing is incredibly aggravating.
It's not good.
You have to jump through so many hoops to start a multiplayer session. Like, once it works, it works.
Is Warzone really the best battle royale of the year? I mean, there's been so many. I would even say, like, I think I had more fun with Hyperscape than I did Warzone, if I'm being honest with you.
The thing is that I haven't heard anything about Hyperscape in like 2 months.
I mean, Hyperscape's not technically released yet.
That's also
my
true.
knowledge.
It wasn't beta.
So that's in a different. I don't think they would put that in the same category.
I hate Warzone in general. I'm not a fan. So
I think there are certainly people that Warzone is their jam.
It's very popular. It has fans, so like I'm like.
Yeah, I think this is the one where like Among Us, if this was a popular vote, would probably win.
Yeah.
Because Among Us is huge right now, but yeah, I'm curious to see what the verdict is on which of these games will come out because I don't play a lot of like competitive multiplayer, and this is all competitive multiplayer except for maybe Fall Guys.
It's still pretty competitive though.
Yeah, Fall Guys is still competitive, but it's less
casual-ish.
It's more casual is probably a good way to put it.
I think it's more fun if it's casual, just because of the random nature of it.
Yeah, it's more of a thing of like I don't care about winning in Fall Guys. Where if I'm playing like Valorant, I would probably be trying to go hard, which I don't enjoy anymore. So it's certainly not my category. Maybe I'm an old man, but
You're all old.
I have played all of these games at various points, and I can certainly see any of them winning. Aside from Animal Crossing, I don't think Animal Crossing deserves this.
Warzone came out this year. Oh,
it did?
God, yeah, like way beginning of 2020.
Yeah, 2020's been a long year.
Oh, Jeez.
I guess speak for everyone when I say that.
Totally forgot.
But yeah, so for best multiplayer, we really don't have a ton of insight into that because I think it's not our general loop. Even Ben, who is our resident multiplayer player, I think he only really plays Warzone out of these.
Yeah.
So, and even then, not that
Playing
often.
multiplayer games, it's just not those.
Well, because it's a lot of like. It's not a super diverse group. It's like the top 5 most popular multiplayer games, and then none of the side stuff. Like, there's no Siege, there's no For Honor. There's no fighting
Continuing
games.
stuff, it's usually
No Smash, which is kind of surprising.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Well, are they only focusing on multiplayer games that came out this year?
No, because Among Us is 2 years old. Like,
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. It only
best
came out
multiplayer is
this
just
year.
best multiplayer. It's not regardless of game, year, platform.
Well, then
or
yeah,
genre.
the list is even more kind of head scratching to me personally.
Weird.
But-
Well, actually, I said Smash, but Smash's multiplayer implementation is really bad, so I'm
Yeah.
not terribly surprised it's not there. But I would have liked to
Is
see
it
like a
the
fighting
online
game
multiplayer?
representative.
But is the category specifically online multiplayer?
Yes, best online
Okay.
multiplayer gameplay and design. And then we have best debut game. So we talked about a few of these. We have Carry On, Mortal Shell, Raji, Roki, and Phasmophobia. All of these are very unique and interesting games.
For
Some of
different
them,
reasons.
yeah, for very different reasons.
Yeah.
I'll say I think the one on here I would least expect to have a chance at winning is Carry On. Because as interesting as I
yeah.
think Carry On is, it's not as, I think, visually impressive or gameplay impressive as like Mortal Shell or Raji.
Well, I would also say that I don't think, because like I think all these games are probably played more than Carry On, so maybe Carry On wouldn't get an award just because I don't think it's as popular as the others.
It's not as fresh.
But yeah, it's also important to establish that like the Game Awards aren't a popularity contest. They're industry panelists who vote and decide among industry people.
It feels like it is sometimes though, and I can understand.
It does feel like it is sometimes, but it is like essentially it's the Electoral College. Which is
Fortunate and accurate.
yeah.
Oh,
So
meaning it's all rigged in some way.
look, we're not getting into politics on this show.
I'm sorry. I look. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
All right, moving on. We have, we talked about Phasmophobia a bit. That's one of Tessa's favorite games right now, which is a like first-person horror debut game made by one person, Kinetic
One
Games.
guy?
Yeah, Phasmophobia
know
is
that.
one person with some contractors. Like, there's been contracting out occasionally, but it is led by one person.
That's pretty cool.
I believe they've
Oh.
hired a team now, and it's like actually a team. But when
hope
it
so.
originally came out, it was one person. So super impressive. Mortal Shell is a very highly competent Souls-like
Oh,
for it being the first game that studio has made.
so good.
Yeah, so there's some really cool stuff here. Raji's just super unique. Roki is a cool little, very unique visual style. I haven't had the chance to play it yet, but it looks super interesting. And then Carry
that
On is just a
Raji,
fun little platformer.
I'd also say that Raji's cutscenes are very visually interesting because it's that kind of like wire frame kind of shadow puppet look, which is just super unique and it's really well done there. So
Yeah,
while
all
we're
right.
talking about interesting aesthetics, anyway.
So moving on, we got Best Sports Racing.
Mm.
I actually think this category probably has a pretty clear winner. So our
Yeah.
nominees are Dirt 5, F1 2020, FIFA 21, and NBA 2K 21. Important note here: FIFA 21 and NBA 2K 21 have not been well received by the general audience or critics
At all.
I think they're here because there aren't a lot of sports games that came out this year,
They needed filler.
and they need 5 nominees. So. And like even among racing games, most of the other racing games that came out this year were indie and probably wouldn't have a chance at competing with F1 or Dirt
Yeah.
5, which are highly competent racing
Or in
games.
video games right now.
But
it's
yeah,
just-
I think of these, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 stands out pretty heavily
Yeah.
Mhm.
No
as
chance for
being a
anything
step
else.
above everything else here,
for sure.
especially with like the amount of post-launch support Vicarious has been doing with it. It's just like that's a very impressive game comparatively. The way I could see it losing is mostly if like the racing games win on technical acumen and like graphical impressiveness, but Pro Skater 1 and 2 was like universally praised by critics. I think it's the least controversial pick up here for a winner. It's probably how I'd put it.
Yeah.
Which isn't always how the Game Awards votes, but that is like generally a good like baseline to see if something has a chance at winning. All right. Any other notes on sports and racing games?
No.
Wow. I think I'm the only one that plays them, so.
Yeah. So
I love both. I love racing games. Sports games hit or miss, but Tony Hawk's is really, really good.
Closest I've come to sports and/or racing was playing Rocket League once or twice.
Hey, that's
Which
both
is
sports and racing.
that's
So
both of them.
Yeah.
You have one.
Yep. Rocket League deserves the win this year. All right, so then we have best sim strategy. So
I love that these are together. It doesn't make any sense.
I think it's because there's not enough nominees from the two separate
It's-
categories.
It's just funny.
But yeah, best sim strategy because you see Flight Sim next to Gears Tactics, and I go, excuse me?
Because there's only one sim on a list. Just to say them.
Yeah. So we have Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and XCOM Chimera Squad. This category is pretty stacked, and I can't call a winner, I think, right now, because all of these games are good.
How weird this category is.
I know.
It's just so strange that Flight
Wait,
Sim
what was
is
the
lumped in the
suffix
middle.
on the XCOM game?
Chimera Squad.
Chimera's-
So Chimera Squad it went a little under the radar. It's a expansion standalone like thing built off of XCOM 2 that is, instead of having like your random squad of units, you get characters that have unique powers. It's a little bit more like a Into the Breach style game of you have very specific units with specific roles and you're trying to make the best use of them in combat, which lets them get a little unique. Like you play a lot of the alien races in Chimera Squad, so it's a cool game. It's very unique compared to the other XComs. And then Gears Tactics is like the Gears take on XCOM, which is surprisingly good.
That's what I heard. Is that
For it being their first attempt at something like that, it is surprisingly good. Desperados 3 is just a fantastic like stealth RTS essentially. And then Crusader Kings 3 is just an incredibly well done grand strategy game.
Wait a second, Gears.
Yeah,
It's
Gears
a
Tactics.
stealth game.
No, Desperados.
No.
Desperados?
Oh,
Desperados is like a
that's the cowboy-themed
western
one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Although I will say it's still kind of strange to hear a cowboy themed like tactics game be more like stealth driven. That seems
Slight auditory hallucinations going on.
I mean, it's that's what that studio is known for. They also did Shadow Tactics, which is it's basically like small team RTS of you control like 5 or 6 units in real time, and you're doing a lot of like stealth and planning, as opposed to real time RTS combat and whatnot. It's a very unique game. All right, moving on past best sim strategy, we have best family. And
Who
here,
is the best family?
Not
Who
the
is
game,
the
just the best family.
best family. We have
The
Animal
best
Crossing.
the best gamer family.
Oh,
All right. So we have Animal Crossing, Crash Bandicoot 4, Fall Guys, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, Minecraft Dungeons, Paper Mario: The Origami King. Only game on here I couldn't see winning is probably Minecraft Dungeons.
Yeah, I haven't heard many good things about that.
Yeah, I played a bit of it. It's kind of just, It's all right if you have it for free on Game Pass, but it's really nothing to write home about. And then
I feel like if you've never played one of those like ARPGs before, it would be
Play Diablo.
Yeah.
The same game.
it's the same game. It's Minecraft Dungeons is just Diablo, but without a lot of the content. Then we have Animal Crossing New Horizons. I think everyone could make a clear case for why that deserves to be up at family. Like, it's just a quality game for anyone of any age. Crash Bandicoot 4, just a good platformer. It might be a little tough for the young ones. Because Crash 4 is really, really difficult. Which is very fun. Like, it's refreshing to see a platformer with that difficulty level, but it is pretty challenging. Fall Guys is just also just a lot of fun for anyone, I think. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, I could totally see winning just based on how unique it is. Like, I don't know how... I wonder if how critical opinions will be for that, but solely based on how unique the premise is, I could see that winning. And then Origami King is just a cool RPG that is just a nice little Mario journey.
I'm sure they didn't plan it at all, but it was kind of very, very lucky for them that they decided to release a game that primarily makes use of the home during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Mario
I'm sure
Kart
that
Live
they
is
didn't
probably
plan
doing
that,
well right
but
now.
boy, was that a
Their
stroke of
timing was
genius
very
slash luck.
coincidental.
Yep.
Yes.
And then my category, unless anyone has other best family notes to say. No? Great. All right. Moving on to the best category, best fighting. I didn't put this in the award, obviously, because it's the best category. Who would contest that? So...
Right.
So many of these things I have nothing to say because I don't play
Best
them.
fighting, we have Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Street Fighter V Champion Edition, One Punch Man, A Hero Nobody Knows, and Under Night In Birth EXE Late CL-R in bracket.
I have heard of 2 of those, and that's about it.
Yeah, so I'll say this one is an interesting category to me because it includes some stuff both from this year and other years. I think the way they're getting around the year thing is that it's Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate and Street Fighter V Champion Edition specifically.
Yeah.
And not the base editions. The one game here that is very much unlike the others and definitely probably won't win is the One Punch Man one. Is just not. It's an okay game, but it's not nearly as well designed as the games from studios that specialize in fighting games, like Arc System with Grand Blue, which is a really good introduction to fighting games for people that aren't super into them. And then Under Night In Birth EXE is my personal favorite fighting game right now, and is just very, very good. And then Mortal Kombat 11 and Street Fighter V are also just quality right now. Street Fighter V has had a lot of hiccups, but it still deserves to be up there. So I don't know who will win that. I'm curious to see, because I don't know how much of the industry people on this really play a lot of fighting games. So it could be any of them, aside from One Punch Man, I think. All right. Moving on to a category I think a few of us will have a little bit more investment in. Best role playing. So this is Cyberpunk. We all know. We all miss you, but you have not come out in time. That last delay just pushed you too far back. So Cyberpunk is not here. We have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Genshin Impact, Persona 5 Royal, Wasteland 3, and Yakuza Like a Dragon, also known as Yakuza 7. Yeah, all of these are really good. These are
played any of these actually.
They're all turn-based RPGs, which is interesting. There's not. I think that they split a lot of the other RPGs into action adventure instead. So Valhalla and Tsushima are an action adventure, not RPG.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of these are really good turn-based RPGs. Genshin Impact is a little weird because it's a mobile. It's a free-to-play game, but it is very fun. I don't think it'll win. At all. I don't think there's even a slight chance it'll win. But the rest of the games are really, really high quality bar, and I could see any of them winning. I would doubt it would be Persona 5 Royal, because Persona 5 already won last year.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to give it to the same game twice, essentially.
Now, I have
a case of they just didn't have enough other things to put in there, so Persona 5 is in there again.
Persona 5 Royal is really good. The new stuff is incredible, but I don't think it's quite on the same competitive level as the new Yakuza or Final Fantasy VII or Wasteland 3.
I do have it installed on my PC, but I haven't played it yet. But I'm kind of surprised that Wastelanders isn't.
Wasteland 3?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Wasteland 3 is really, really good. It's an extremely good, inspired by the original Wasteland and Fallout series. It's a very, very good RPG.
I haven't played it personally, but from it feels like it's it definitely feels like it's Fallout inspired. I was gonna say
Wasteland was the series that inspired Fallout.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Wasteland. The original Wasteland is the oldest in that line that then inspired Fallout, and then Wasteland 2 didn't happen for 20 years.
Think of it like Wasteland versus Fallout is what BioShock was to System Shock.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
What was your question, Alex? Did Do you have
Did I
something
have
to
a
say about
question?
it? It was either you or Wyatt. It might have been Wyatt.
No, I was asking a question. If it was on the list, would you be? Do you think it deserves to be on the list at all? Like,
What?
would you be complaining if Wasteland 3 was on the list?
Wasteland 3 is on the list.
It is.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry.
What?
I am so tired. I am so tired.
Yeah, I think the things
I'm so
I could see
sorry.
winning this are Final Fantasy VII Remake, Wasteland 3, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. I think all could certainly deserve this. Like, I personally, I can't call my favorite. I'm playing Like a Dragon right now. It's incredible. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was incredible. Wasteland 3, I'm working my way very slowly through, and it is also incredible. So, any of those could win. And Persona 5 Royale, I don't think it will win based solely on the fact that it's not a wholly new game, but it's also incredible. So, yeah, that's a stacked category this year. All right, moving on to the thing that more of us are familiar with, Best Action Adventure. So, I'm going to throw out the one here that I think will be get the most reaction out of everybody. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order came out late enough last year to be included in this.
Oh wow!
So
It's
in this category. It's a nominee. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, one of the next ones. Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ghost of Tsushima, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh.
Now, I really like
This is a
Fallen
toughie.
Order. I really, really like Fallen Order. This is.
I don't think I like Fallen Order as well. I think Fallen Order has the issue of it's going up against a tier of games here that I don't think it can compete on the same level of. I don't think people are gonna see action adventure and then think Fallen Order beats both Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima.
Well, it depends on who you ask for Last of Us.
Yeah, but I think like at a base level, it's running up against category a weight class that it maybe isn't as good at fighting in. So yeah, I as much as I love Fallen Order, I wouldn't see it winning this.
I'd be surprised if it did. Kind of
Same with Miles
even,
Morales, I think. Judging from opinions on Miles Morales, I don't see it winning this either. I could see it competing, but yeah.
I've heard controversy about it not being worth the money time-wise.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I don't know if critics are really going to care about that, so maybe, but yeah. I could see all the others winning this. I doubt it'll be Valhalla, because I think Valhalla might be a little bit too new. In people's minds, regardless of the quality level. I think they might avoid picking it because of that.
I think everything else on the list, including Fallen Order, was just received better generally.
Yeah, because like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, Fallen Order, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps all were like universally praised. So
yeah,
the biggest upset here.
It's an Ubisoft game, so it usually has a rough time.
But it's also Valhalla is the only game up here that has microtransactions. Like that alone is a pretty big mark against it. I think that at least for a lot of critics. So I would be surprised if that won. The biggest upset here would be, I think, if Ori and the Will of the Wisps won. I would love it if it did, because I love that game to death, but
I think it's a little too niche.
I don't think it's too niche. I think this is maybe not the category for it.
Yeah, action adventure
seems weird.
Because it is technically an action adventure, but the best platformer, I would certainly see it winning. But there aren't really enough other platformers in its weight class that have launched this year to really give it a run for its money.
Well, there will be soon.
If there was a category, what do you think it would fit best with? I'm curious, because I haven't played it, so I can't.
I would say if there was like a best Metroidvania or platformer, that's where I would put it with. But action adventure of the categories that are here is probably the best spot for it.
Mm-hmm.
It is just a situation of like it doesn't fit super cleanly in any of these.
Put it in.
Yeah. Then we have and the other interesting, we have best action adventure, and then we have best action as the next category.
So weird.
So the differential here is best action is primarily focused on combat.
Okay.
Whereas best action adventure is combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
I think the problem is just action and action adventure are such like vague, almost nebulous genres, to be honest.
They have to be this year, though. They have to, because there just isn't. It's a weird year where not enough.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of games this year that are in weird categories to really make those weird categories. So yeah, best action, we got Best action is another stacked category. We have Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Clearly,
goodness.
no one would be
my-
upset at that one. We have Hades. No one would be upset at that one.
Oh!
We have Half-Life
Oh.
Alyx, which is also incredible.
Mm.
Neo 2 and Streets of Rage 4.
Wow.
Neo 2 is incredible. Streets of Rage 4, I've heard nothing but good things about, and I played a bit of it, and it was very satisfying.
Wow.
But yeah, like any of these games deserves to win this category.
Yeah.
Like that
Wow.
one is really stacked. My personal bet would probably be either Doom Eternal or Hades.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think
Oh.
Hades might win some other things and not this.
If Hades wins nothing, that's gonna make me just the saddest man.
I have my heart says Doom Eternal's gonna win this.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think.
I don't know if it will, but that's what my heart says. I would probably vote for Neo 2, but not enough people played that game. So...
Did it not perform?
No, it performed well. It's niche enough that I think it's not quite as comparable because it's almost more of like a like looter game in a way than a standard action game.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
want to
yeah.
play it.
It's wonderful. I love it so much, but it is a little bit different than the rest. And Streets of Rage 4 being 2D, I think might actually be pretty hard for it to win.
Yeah.
And I could see Half-Life Alyx winning just for the sake of coolness, although I think it also will probably be in a different category, will be its primary category, the VR category.
I do find it kind of crazy that we've finally gotten to the point where we can have VR games in the action category. That's pretty interesting.
All right, and then innovation and accessibility, we have some great stuff here. This is another category that I think is just really fun because it's giving some recognition to the games that go above and beyond for like making sure that they're accessible and fun for anyone, regardless of if they have issues with playing in a standard way. So the competitors here, Last of Us Part 2, obviously, it has like one of the most advanced
I would have
accessibility
rated if it
menus.
wasn't on the list because the amount of effort that went into that
Yeah.
accessibilities menu is insane.
Hyperdot, which is, I believe, an indie game, Grounded, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Watch Dogs Legion. I think this category has a clear winner, like by a lot, which is Last of Us Part 2.
Mhm.
Like the sheer amount of accessibility options and whatnot that you could enable is second to none. And like playing Watch Dogs Legion and Valhalla, sure, they have like the cursory menu of like you can enable menu narration and whatnot, but they really didn't come anywhere close to what Last of Us Part 2 was offering.
It's incredible. It's I mean, you turn on a lot of those features and it's like playing a different game.
Yeah, you can really tailor the experience, and like if you have sight problems, the game will help you with that. If you have hearing problems, the game can have visual indicators. So it's such a cool set of options for you to have, and none of these other games have something on that level. So
Even as someone, who doesn't have any sort of accessibility issues in that regard, I still found it really useful just for smaller things like having a more generous dodge window, that kind of thing. Something I played
just
around
being
with
able
a
to
lot.
like toggle around individual combat settings to tune it to your liking.
Eh,
All right,
very well done.
so yeah, I think that one's pretty easy to probably call. I think Last of Us Part 2 has that in the bag, almost no question.
Oh yeah.
Best VR AR Dreams, Half-Life Alyx, Iron Man VR, Star Wars Squadrons, and Walking Dead Saints and Sinners.
Is there a contest here?
I think the only contest that really exists here in my mind is between Half-Life Alyx and Walking Dead Saints and Sinners as like full VR experiences.
Yeah.
Because both of them have a pretty similar level of interactivity and quality. Dreams is cool, but it's also locked to a not as powerful VR platform and doesn't really do as much. And it's also hard to like give it to Dreams without there being a ton of VR stuff in Dreams because of the rarity of that stuff. Like a lot of people don't have the stuff to develop that. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Squadrons.
I don't think Squadrons will win because
I don't think so either.
the VR support for Squadrons is basically just looking around. It's
It's the cockpit and that's it.
which is really great, and it's all that it really needs to have. But at the same time, it's competing with a game that like pioneered the physics in VR.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
yeah, I have a feeling Half-Life Alyx will win that, but Saints and Sinners could also be a winner. But yeah, best community support. We have Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Fall Guys, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and Valorant. So this is specifically about community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates, patches. I gotta say, my personal pick has to go to Fall Guys just because the Fall Guys Twitter is incredible. It's super entertaining, but like, I'm not tuned in enough to the rest of these aside from No Man's Sky to really be able to judge them.
I mean, I'm
tuned into Destiny.
I mean, No Man's Sky just because it's gotten me playing it after years. You know?
Yeah.
Especially this year because they finally added the one thing or one of the big things that people wanted was like the giant Dune style space worms.
Sandworms.
Sandworms, excuse me. And that was one thing that a lot of people were asking for because I mean, who doesn't want a giant sandworm in their space video game, right?
It's also like if we're treating this as like a most improved trophy, then that
oh my goodness
should probably go to No Man's Sky.
Oh my
goodness,
because
it's something to.
Well, there's another category for that called best ongoing, which is where this gets a little more confusing because these two are kind of overlapping in a weird way in that they both include like updates and patches. I take this to mean it's more focused on like community managers and the community teams of games and not necessarily the content teams. So I would probably I think the real competitors here are probably Apex, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and Fall Guys. I think Valorant and Destiny 2 don't quite have enough going on there.
Definitely not.
To be in that list, as much as I love both of those games, and I say that as much as I love, it's not that much. I appreciate Destiny 2 for what it is and play it occasionally, but I think the community team there is not quite as interactive.
You feel a lot more
I am sorry,
positively about it than I do. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Then we have best mobile game.
Imagine the poor Trials players, Wyatt.
Yeah. So best mobile game is best game playable on a mobile device. We have Among Us, Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, Legends of Runeterra, and Pokemon Cafe Mix.
Genshin Impact.
I think this will either go to Genshin Impact or Among Us, but I could see Among Us, Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, or Legends of Runeterra winning. I don't think Pokemon Cafe Mix is competing on the same level as these.
No.
I didn't even know that was a thing until you said it just now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I think that was because they needed a fifth, like a high budget mobile game to put here. Yeah, that's what happened. This is one I think Genshin Impact will probably win just because of how well made it is. But Among Us could certainly sweep in and take it from the back, and Legends of Runeterra and Call of Duty Mobile also have their own shots.
See, you know what I was kind of waiting for this entire year? Because I know that Supergiant often makes mobile ports for all their games, so I'm like, is Hades also going to be on the list for best mobile game if they do the mobile port in time?
That'd be interesting.
But anyway.
Yeah. So after that, unless anyone has mobile game thoughts. No? Great. Best indie.
A lot of the mobile games I played are ones that I already owned that didn't come out this year, so I can't really comment.
I mean, I've heard in personal experience, I've heard people complaining about the Among Us controls on mobile. I haven't heard complaints about the controls for Genshin.
Genshin works surprisingly well on mobile. I've played it a few times. Huh. Like it's a game I didn't think would work super well on mobile because it has like the full 360 movement and action and controller inputs that you would expect. But the mobile controls are more than adequate to play it. But moving on to Best Indie. So Best Indie, we have Carry On, Fall Guys, Hades, Spelunky 2, and Spiritfarer.
Hades.
So...
Well, is that what you think, or is that what you think everyone's going to pick?
I think that's going to be what's going to win.
Yeah, I think Fall Guys and Carry On likely won't win Best Indie. Just gut feeling wise. I don't necessarily have a reason as to why I think Fall Guys won't win, because I do love Fall Guys, but I have a feeling critics are going to lean towards the single player stuff for this one. Mm-hmm. Hades, of course, we all love here. Spelunky 2, I consistently hear is like one of the best designed indie games to have come out, like just super tightly designed and incredibly good. And Spiritfarer was a wholly unique experience the entire time through. So I could see any of those three winning. The biggest reason I think Hades might not win this, it depends on if the Game Awards, I don't know if they do, like, you can only win one category or not. I don't think so.
I don't think so, yeah.
But I think they tend to, like, save it for a few. Like, sometimes they won't vote. If people are going to vote for Hades for, like, Game of the Year, they won't vote for it for Best Indie. So
I think it's kind of a mistake if they do, because it's like, well, if it's the best for that category, then it shouldn't stop you from...
Because I think Best Indie is judged on a different level than Best Game of the Year. Whereas, to me, I think Spelunky is, like, pretty solid as a pick for Best Indie. If it was Game of the Year, I probably wouldn't put it there because it's a little too niche. Whereas I think, like, being niche doesn't matter for Best Indie.
Right.
Where Hades has that wide audience appeal that allows it to be Best Game of the Year, I think. But yeah, we'll see. I think this category is really tough to call because it really depends on how organizationally it's done behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're all great games. All right, Best Ongoing. So this is basically the same list as the community support one. We have Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Warzone, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I think Wyatt and I are both immediately hopping on No Man's Sky. Although, gotta say, Fortnite's been pulling some stuff out.
They've been having some huge events.
Yeah. Fortnite's been doing some really, really cool stuff the past while, and even though I don't really play the game, it's really cool to see, so I could certainly see Fortnite winning this. I think No Man's Sky will, based solely on, like, the amount of content they've put out for the game recently, and all the really awesome updates. Like, they have this whole roguelike Darrah system now, which is amazing. Like, there's so many cool things.
They added, like, a whole sort of Destiny Tower-esque area.
That's been there for, like, 2 years at this point.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I must not have been...
That was a last year thing.
Still, though, it's kind of incredible.
It's impressive, but yeah. So, I think that'll probably either go to Fortnite or No Man's Sky. There's a slight chance it could go to, like, Apex Legends in my mind. I don't think Destiny 2 or Warzone will get this.
No. Yeah, I don't think so.
It feels weird to give, like, ongoing award to a game that came out in the same year. I get that, like, they're judging it on the support it's getting, because it did get a lot of updates when it first came out at the very beginning of this year. I get that, but it feels strange to me.
It does. All right, we're going to kick up the pace a little bit just to make sure we have enough time to do, like, a decent Game of the Year discussion. So, Games for Impact is basically games that are thought-provoking and have a social meaning or message.
Ooh, yes.
There is If Found, Kentucky Route Zero, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, and Through the Darkest of Times.
Kentucky Route Zero was that really interestingly animated game, wasn't it?
Kentucky Route Zero is like pop art vector animation.
Yeah. Oh,
just super fun.
Interesting.
My personal bet for what'll win this is probably Spiritfarer, with Kentucky Route Zero pulling up a close second. I think Tell Me Why is a little too recent. And then these other two games are a little bit more niche than I think a lot of industry people will have played.
Recent for it coming out or recent for its content?
Tell Me Why is very recent. Like, it came out last month. So I'd be surprised if that won, just based on, like, I don't know how many critics have played it by now. I also have heard differing things on its quality level. So, but all right, any Games for Impact thoughts?
Where is Genshin Impact?
Get it? Games for Impact. All right.
I was so close to making that joke. Thank you for taking the bullet for me.
That was a good decision to wait for that, Alex.
You should feel honored. What's going on?
All right.
Well, you did take a bullet.
So, next round, we have Best Performance, awarded to an individual for voice acting, motion, or performance capture. So, this is a stacked category.
Yeah.
Everyone here is incredibly deserving if they win. Ashley Johnson is Ellie. I mean, come on, like, that performance was incredible. Laura Bailey is Abby, also incredible.
Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey. Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai. Another very good performance. Logan Cunningham as Hades. Like, And then Najee Jeter as Miles Morales. Like, all of these are fantastic actors that did great jobs. I could see any of them winning. I kind of think Laura Bailey, I would love Laura Bailey to win just for the amount of crap she had to put up with.
I give it to Ashley Johnson.
But yeah, Ashley Johnson
that's who I think is gonna have it, honestly.
That's my personal vote as well. As much as I love Gian, I think Ashley Johnson's performance was incredible.
And okay, regardless of what you think about
the game, the actors did
Johnson,
it. I really
during that scene. I'm not gonna say the scene, but the scene.
Yeah,
she was incredible.
This is the category. This is the category to me that stands out the most, as I would be totally happy with any of these people winning. I don't think Logan Cunningham as Hades will win, just because he doesn't have a motion capture performance aspect to his performance.
Yeah.
But there isn't a single.
Oh God, who voiced Miles again?
Najee Jeter.
Does he have any motion capture?
Yeah. Oh. Everyone else did motion capture. Not for everything, but like for their facial animation and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But Logan Cunningham didn't. Although Logan Cunningham's voice performance is incredible, I think they're gonna think pretty heavily about motion capture as well.
Did he also do? Isn't he also the musical man?
He did a bunch of stuff in Hades. He's not just Hades. He voice acted a few characters.
A single bad voice performance in Hades. It's kind of incredible. And like, I wouldn't even say it's like, oh no, they're passable. No, like every single voice, like regardless of who did it, just like brought so much to that character, to their voice. It's incredible.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to best audio design. So pretty self-explanatory category. We have another heavy-hitting category with a lot of really good stuff. Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3, and Last of Us Part 2. Any of these games could win. I would be totally happy.
That's kind of a toss-up for me.
Because like there are elements of Tsushima that I think are super unique in audio design, and then there are elements of Last of Us Part 2 where it's just so well recorded that it just performs wonderfully. Resident Evil 3 has some really standout moments.
I think it's gonna be Doom.
A lot of the like the impacts for like hitting enemies and punching people in Doom is just so. And I'm assuming there's a separate score category, so I'm not really gonna like count.
Yeah, score is a separate category.
But and assuming the people voting have actually managed to build up a combo, I think Doom will win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all of these games are super deserving of being there. So that's another super hard category to call. Best score in music. So best score in music, Doom Eternal is up there, obviously. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know if you guys have listened to the score of that game. It is phenomenal. Like some of the best scoring I've ever heard. Yeah. Like Brett and I were synchronized with that. That's how good it was.
Wow.
That was powerful.
Hades also got some incredible music in there.
Goodness.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps was one of the most like memorable soundtracks I've ever heard. Last of Us Part 2. I think Last of Us Part 2 probably won't win this because its soundtrack is a little more subdued than most of these other games.
It's also not as utilized as the others.
I think the others, the soundtrack is very much in the forefront a lot of the time. Whereas with Last of Us Part 2, it tends to be in the background.
And not to say it's underused. It's used perfectly for the type of game that it is. It's just not as prominent, for sure. It's
going up against games that are like top of their class in soundtrack, and I think it's not quite competing on the same level. But yeah, Hades, every audio piece in Hades is incredible. We've already said it with the voice acting. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Gareth Coker's scoring is incredible. Like I'm sure pretty much anyone that has seen an Xbox reveal at this time knows the Ori like da na 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 like that like tone that they do. Doom Eternal, Mick Gordon's soundtracks always are high quality. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake is just great.
Speaking of Joe Corker, right? Or
Gareth Coker?
Gareth Corker, excuse me. Wow, I am just not.
You tried.
Like I tried. He also did a great job with Immortals: Phoenix Rising, and he also produced that one bit of music for the Halo Infinite gameplay demo, which was really, really great as well. So that's definitely a man to look out for in the future, for sure. Anything with his name attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously really, really great job all around for the score and music. So that's another toss-up. My personal bet is going to be either Ori, Final Fantasy VII, or Doom Eternal. I think any of those three could win it. Hades, I think, will probably be a little bit more competitive in its other categories because I don't think it just has the volume of music that these other games do.
Yeah.
It's all super high quality, but like Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps have like dozens of incredible tracks. So yeah, it's just a super tough category to call. All right, moving on. Best art direction. I think we're gonna start seeing a pattern here of games.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We're into the top tier now. So we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Last of Us Part 2.
It's still as hard as the last one to
So,
decide.
I think for me, I would probably assume that either Tsushima or Ori will win this.
I'm gonna say Tsushima.
Specifically because of this is artistic direction, not actual like asset quality. It's that artistic direction, and as much as I love like Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Hades, I think they're not quite as distinctive.
Hades is
they're leaning more on their fidelity.
Yeah, they're more on fidelity. I mean, Hades is super distinctive, but I think it's also a style that we've seen from Supergiant before. It's not quite as unique.
Yeah.
Well, also because it has that kind of like Greek, ancient Greek pottery kind of look to it. A lot of it too kind of reminds me of if you've ever seen Disney's Hercules. It shares a lot of similarities to that.
And who hasn't?
Yeah, of course.
Which isn't to say it's not a phenomenal art direction. It's just I think
no. It's just not.
I think Tsushima and Ori are the two standouts here. My guess would probably be Tsushima, because I think Tsushima just was universally praised for that on a level that I hadn't seen before.
It might be like the prettiest game I've ever played in my entire life.
It's up there. So, any other words on art direction?
No, not really.
All right, great.
I guess not.
So, best narrative. This is an interesting one because there's a game up here that I'm going to be championing super hard. I don't think it'll win, but man, I want it to. Best narrative has Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, The Last of Us Part 2, and 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim.
That
one better win. That one.
13 Sentinels, to me, after having like finally completed that game, hands down deserves this on a level that the other games can't compete on. But I don't think enough of the voters will have played the game for it to win.
I don't think Hades is narratively driven enough.
I think it is. I think it's totally competitive for this. It's a little bit non-traditional in the way it's driven by narrative, but
it's roguelike narrative, which
it's roguelike narrative done in a way that's never been done before.
Drive, though, a lot of your like motivation to complete the game is to learn more about the story.
Yeah, I'd say it's the first really successful roguelike that has. It's not the first roguelike to try it, but it's the first one that succeeded at making it primarily narrative driven.
Look, what I'm saying is you're wrong.
Wow, Wyatt.
No.
Wow, that was harsh. But yeah, I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably not going to have a chance at winning, mostly because it's not a finished game, and not a finished game, but it's the first of presumably a trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to judge that game on the narrative, especially with like how contentious the finale of the game is.
A lot of controversy there.
That controversy pretty much died down.
The end of the game are the most controversial parts of it.
I mean, a lot of that controversy has died down. People like it now, but it's because they're like, well, it successfully recreated the feeling of the original of like what's going to happen.
It's almost like you have to take your time and really think about how you feel about something before you just,
Yeah, it's an interesting situation.
For Final Fantasy VII Remake on this, right?
Absolutely.
Everything here.
We're not talking about spoilers. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake for a game that we thought we knew the story of. It's safe to say that we're not entirely certain anymore, so it's hard to judge. Last of Us Part 2 clearly deserves to be in the category, but was super controversial.
Ryan, I think your and Wyatt's cut would be better.
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest thing with me with Last of Us Part 2 is that if you're going for the multiple protagonist angle, 13 Sentinels does it better, hands down, in every way. Like, so I think if that's the reason
I can't really comment.
yeah, which is hard to comment on because a lot of people haven't played that amazing game. 13 Sentinels handles having multiple protagonists. Like, you would think a game with 13 different protagonists that you can play in any order wouldn't make sense, but it's handled so well. So I think that game is just like does a stunning job of handling that. But Last of Us Part 2, I could totally see it winning. I can also see there being tons of outrage when if it does. So I'm curious to see. It's hard to call this one. I think the only game I would write off of this is Final Fantasy VII. I don't think that has a chance, but everything else is up there. Any other narrative thoughts before we move on?
I never have any of those.
All right, we're to our final two categories.
Everything's
final
and out of order.
We're here to the final two categories of the Game Awards. All right, we have Best Game Direction. Now, this one's super hard to call because it's also very open in that it's literally just an award for the best outstanding innovation in direction and design. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and Last of Us Part 2. All these games deserve to be up here. I think this category is going to be hard to call because it includes Half-Life Alyx, which is a super innovative VR game, and it's a category ostensibly about like game direction and design. I probably don't see 7 Remake or Last of Us Part 2 winning this. I would probably say that because I think they're doing stuff that's pretty similar to games that have been done before. Yeah. Last of Us with the Last of Us and Final Fantasy VII Remake with other JRPGs.
Including Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. So I think those two are a little hard to say if they have a chance because of the fact that they're doing a lot that their predecessors have also done. And this award is about innovation and game direction, so I don't see them winning. I wouldn't be upset if they won. I want to clarify that, but I don't see them winning. I don't know if you would disagree with me there, Wyatt. On like Last of Us Part 2.
Will you, Wyatt?
Oh, we lost it.
Oh, did we lose
Land of the Living?
Well, that means he doesn't get a say on it. So Hades, yeah, I could see Hades winning just because of how unique it is with narrative and roguelikes, but
my mic was unplugged. And also apparently that decided to screw with my headphones. Can you repeat?
Yeah, so Last of Us Part 2 for Best Game Direction, do you think it has a chance of winning?
I think it's too divisive.
Yeah. I think for me, my reason is mostly that while it is very polished, it is mostly using design that was decided on in the first Last of Us and isn't quite innovating as much as like Tsushima or Half-Life Alyx does.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Hades winning just because of how it kind of weaves the narrative into its roguelike elements.
Yeah, I think probably the most
actually gonna win. Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the most innovative game on here is definitely Half-Life Alyx, but it's a VR game that also exists in a different space and may or may not really be. I think it's just hard to judge in comparison to the rest of these. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. And now we have our big boy category.
Big man.
Game of the Year. So the Game Awards definition of the Game of the Year award is recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. So, with that said, I think there are.
I'm sorry.
Hey, my vote is Hades as well, Wyatt. Legitimately, after a lot of deliberation, I was like, yeah, I think Hades deserves it. Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, and Last of Us Part 2.
They got to put one in there to make you laugh. For the last.
As much as I love Animal Crossing, I really don't see it winning this. I think it's fighting out of its weight class.
It's not in the right category.
It's like when like the kid sits at the adult table at a family gathering and is just like being cute, but at the same time.
Which, considering the other games on this list, is a very apt comparison.
Yeah. I think everything else here is I would maybe not expect Doom Eternal to win.
Uh,
As much as I like Doom Eternal, I think a lot of the controversy that happened with music and whatnot might actually play into this a little bit.
Outside of the game, though, that has nothing to do with the actual.
It's outside, but I think it might color a few of the journalists who are making these decisions impressions.
Well, I don't think that would be a fair.
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I don't think it would be fair, but at the same time, like I think that combined with the fact that it's competing against some really top tier stuff, would prevent it from probably winning. I think it's just It's also a sequel, and usually sequels don't do as well for Game of the Year awards unless they're like years and years later to an older game. It tends to be hard to give that to them unless they're super unique, which is why I think Last of Us Part 2 does have a legitimate chance of winning this, just because of how well done and like well made of a game it is.
Honestly, I see a higher chance of Doom Eternal winning than Last of Us 2.
I think I see a higher chance of it winning. I don't know if I would say it deserves it as much. It's hard to call. Like it's a super difficult discussion.
What are you saying would deserve it more? Last of Us?
I think Last of Us Part 2 does enough like astounding technical things that I would rate a little higher, but that's, again, I'm a very technical person.
But I don't think it's an overall. I mean, and this is as someone who's
overall it's less
consistent on this show. I don't think it's an overall better game. I think it does a lot of things incredibly well, but I think it's more uneven than something like Doom.
And Doom Eternal is very focused on what it is.
Yeah, it's very highly polished in almost every area. In every area, personally speaking.
Yeah. So I guess what I would ask immediately after talking about Doom Eternal is, anyone going to make a case for Animal Crossing?
No.
Nope. All right.
No.
Haven't played
it. The multiplayer aspects just
played it
that right out of contention for me.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, so Final Fantasy VII Remake is another interesting one. I think the big killer for 7 Remake is going to be the technical fields, because there are a few moments. Final Fantasy VII Remake does some really cool stuff with like the pre-rendered backgrounds that they're harkening back to like the actual Final Fantasy VII of using these hyper detailed skyboxes that are like essentially movie quality CG rendered out. But at the same time, sometimes those kind of break and like the resolution doesn't match and it doesn't look good. So I don't know. I think the game has enough like small issues, as well as it not being a complete narrative in and of itself, will hold it back. And then I think like the top 3 here will definitely be Tsushima, Hades, and Last of Us Part 2 are like the big trifecta, maybe including Doom Eternal in that as well, of games that are like really competing for it. But my gut says this is going to come down to either Tsushima or Hades.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
That sounds the most fair, yeah.
And I legitimately hope Hades wins. I think, as much as I love Tsushima, I think Hades
the point of this entire episode is that Hades is incredible and you should go play it.
Absolutely. I think it's just like, it would say a lot because we haven't had an indie game of the year in so long from any outlet. And from something as high profile as the Game Awards, that would probably mean a lot. Like, I hope that would really open up the category for more indie in the future.
Not that this should affect their ranking at all, but I do think that they would get a lot of kudos for having an indie game like Hades win.
Well, it's also that like Hades is absolutely deserving of it. Like
it's not.
As much as we just said that it's
no, it is. But I do think there is that.
I think there's generally this perception of like, in wrestling terms, indie games are the lightweight class, and then AAA is the heavyweights. Whereas Hades is now like, people would say punching above its weight class, but it's really not. Like it is on that quality level, and it's one of the most like polished experiences of the year. So I would totally see it winning. I think it totally deserves it if it does. But I'm totally like, any of these games could win aside from maybe Animal Crossing, and I wouldn't be upset. If Animal Crossing won, I'd probably shake my head a little bit and go like, huh.
I would like make sure I was like still like awake. Like I feel like I might be having some health problems if I saw that Animal Crossing was the winner.
Yeah,
like, nothing against Animal Crossing. It's just you're going up against Hades and Ghost of Tsushima for Game of the Year.
Yeah,
like
it's a tough judging there.
If it gets any award out of being game of the year, it's going to be like the participation award.
Yeah.
You made it.
We're so proud of you. Look at you. You're here. You did
it.
I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, I could totally see that being the case. All right. So we did it. We've covered the entire Game Awards list.
Done.
There's a few minor Game Awards things. We have like lists of who's presenting there now. If I can bring up the host, we got Jeff Keighley. I think everyone at this point knows Jeff Keighley,
Yep.
the man himself, the man who used to work on Spike TV, but somehow became the like icon of Game Awards.
Absolute madman.
I just love how wild Jeff Keighley is. Then the advisory board is a thing that a lot of people don't know about. So the advisory board is a bunch of people that make the game awards run. Some people have confusion here of like they vote on awards. They don't have any involvement in selecting either award nominees or winners, but they help create the show essentially. And that includes people from a lot of game studios. The president of Activision, Hideo Kojima, is on here. Epic Games is just listed as Epic Games. You got Doug Bowser, Mark Merrill. It's
everyone
just
is here.
Phil Spencer's there. Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft.
Everyone joins the battle.
The entirety of Rockstar Games and Sony Interactive Entertainment.
Oh.
And Valve.
Talk about big boys, my goodness.
Yeah, there's a lot of big boys in there. So yeah, the Game Awards is hitting pretty heavily right now. Then Jeff Keighley's been tweeting out some spoilers essentially of who's going to be doing like awards and whatnot. So we have some presenters are going to be Nolan North.
Oh.
We have
nice.
John David Washington, who I don't think he's ever done anything related to Game Awards, but he's the star of Tenet, the movie. So
Oh.
Okay.
Cool.
Huh.
All right.
the Sydney Goodman, who has been a host a few times of the pre-show for the Game Awards, who will be doing it again this year.
Oh yeah. She's like a news host for IGN, I think.
I
right?
think so. There's Stephen A. Smith, who looks super familiar. What does he do? I don't know what he does because they don't tell you in this. But Stephen A. Smith does something. I think he does like sports things. I think he's like a sports radio guy, but it's hard to tell.
It sounds like it.
Obviously, we have our boy Reggie. Reggie Fils-Aimé is coming once again as a presenter.
Is his body ready though?
I hope it is. I really hope it is.
Again, I think, because he had a really good speech about it last year. I think it was.
Yeah.
For the Indie Game of the Year.
Was that last year?
Yeah, last year he did the Indie Award and he gave a actual incredible speech. Like it was like 2 minutes long and extremely good. Troy Baker is going to be there as well. So we got a real all-star cast: Brie Larson, Gal Gadot, Eddie Vedder. I think that's everyone. I think that's everyone we know
Eddie
about.
Vedder?
Oh nope, sorry, Tom Holland.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, he's going to be in the Uncharted movie.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
why
that-
it's the Uncharted movie.
kinda makes sense.
Yeah. Wow, that's a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe
Tom
have-
Holland
I
is
don't know.
Nathan Drake.
I'm excited and worried because, as I have probably said multiple times, no matter how much I try to advocate for Destiny now, Uncharted is still my favorite game series.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
So,
incredible.
I am-
It's one of my favorites for sure.
I hope they do it justice.
And we will definitely be reporting back next week with some Game Awards stuff as the show wraps up and whatever announcements happen. That's almost guaranteed going to be the entire topic of next week is whatever announcements happen at the Game Awards, as well as any outrage to the actual award picks. Will
I
be
can foresee a lot of screaming.
yeah, it's going to be a little bit much. So we'll see. Yeah, that's it. We did the show. We've made it through. All that's left is shoutouts. Which means I'm going to be going and picking out you people. And because Wyatt, I said you could go first last time and then you weren't ready, I'm going to make you go first this time.
Very fancy. I just shout out to, I mean, this isn't really surprising. Shout out to Hello Games for supporting this game for as long as they have after all the crap they've received. Deservedly at launch, but despite all that, they have been releasing content ever since then, and they've been doing a great job. So shout out to you, fine lads.
All right. How about Alex? You got a good one?
So I'm sorry if this is the one that you picked before, but I'm going to say it anyway. Shout out to Adobe Flash Player. You will be missed.
Ah, it's so sad.
F. Just one.
Yeah.
Rip in pieces.
For those of you watching live, could we get an F in the chat?
Please.
Wait,
Did
this
you
isn't
just
a
ask
Twitch?
for an F in the
All
chat?
right, all right.
Goodness.
Brett, please clear our souls from that F in the chat comment.
You know what I'm gonna say. I'm going to shout out to Project Wingman, which is a very, very, very good installment in the many, many niche plain games. It's made by like 3 people with a bunch of voice actors that I think volunteered. And they reached the day that it came out, second most purchased game on Steam behind Cyberpunk.
Oh.
Which is
Wow.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
For only the day it came out.
But hey, for an indie, that means a lot.
That's
No, for sure.
really impressive.
And it's also a really great game, so I would recommend it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be picking it up soon. All right, final shout out. Got to give it to Jeff Keighley. As much of a meme as Jeff Keighley can be, I think it is very impressive that he literally is basically just like the sole organizer for a lot of the Game Awards and a lot of the like hype that exists around this kind of announcement show at this point. So yeah, I gotta give props to the man, especially for dealing with all the trolls and whatnot. Like, there's been a lot of controversy because Last of Us Part 2 is getting pretty deep into the Player's Choice Award, which people are upset about for some reason. And he's like,
because game bad, and we're just
and Keely's getting flack for that. And his response is like, this is literally a community vote award. I have no control over who wins.
but Ryan, video game bad, and obviously has no clear
all right,
objective.
Wyatt, I'm pressing the outro button right now, just so you know. I did it. It's pressed.
What
a great
We're all very proud of you.
Oh, it's not done yet. It's still happening. It'll be over in.
Oh no, we're in the
10
outro.
seconds.
We still got more.
I have to say, Ryan, every time you count down for the beginning to start, I get immediate flashbacks to when I used to watch iCarly.